What's up, everyone? It is Fido from Self-Taught Hustle. And if you are new to this channel, I wanted to say welcome. Here at Self-Taught Hustle, we go over practical tech and tech strategies to have you build things that will get you paid. And one of the key things when you are a developer in the wild, when you are freelancing, or even if you're working for a corporation, that you will come across is having to understand what is hosting, okay? And that, along with something known as DNS, the domain name system, will be fundamental to understand when you work with clients, because you will run into the scenario fairly often, if not nearly in every instance, when you're working with a client privately, from my experience. So I figured that this would be a good opportunity to break down what exactly is hosting, and then also go over DNS for you guys. Ideally, that will be helpful, and this will aid you in your process of getting out in the wild and making some money as a coder. And before we get started today, I wanted to say that if you are learning to code currently, and if you are stuck in what I like to call tutorial hell, well, what many people like to call tutorial hell, go to selftaughthustle.net and add your email here in the input box, and I will be sending you free videos that give you a strategy for how to break out of tutorial hell so that you can code not just now, but for the rest of your career. All you have to do is go to selftaughthustle.net, and that will be there for you. All right, so to kick things off, what we're going to be talking about is, I should say, where we're going to start is by going over what web hosting is, okay? So when you go to host a website, what you're really doing is, say you go to Hostinger, what you're really doing when you go to Hostinger to host a website, or more specifically to deploy a website, is what you'll commonly hear it called, is that you are loading your assets onto a server, okay, so that the rest of the network, the internet, can see those assets via a browser, effectively, right? And that's pretty much it. That's the simple 1, 2, 3 of hosting, right? When somebody says, "Hey, did you go deploy that site?" Or when you're talking, you say, "Hey, I went to go deploy that site." What you're saying is, "Hey, I deployed the files that make up my website onto a server so that the other network members, other clients, other computers can see those files through an application like a browser," right? And that's actually, it's pretty much that simple. The thing is that there's kind of an extra little spice here, and that has to do with the DNS, which is the domain name system, okay? So a scenario that you will commonly find when you are out in the wild coding for clients is that they'll purchase their domain in something that's called a domain register, okay, which is essentially a service that provides domains, okay, but they will want the hosting of the files that make up their website on an other hosting service, okay? Sometimes the domain registers can also provide a lot of times the domain registers also provide the hosting services. However, there are oftentimes many scenarios where the domain name is purchased one place and the website is going to be hosted in another place, okay? So how is it that you can write a domain right to a domain that was purchased in one place, but see the files of that the website that should belong to that domain from another in another place, effectively, right? The way that you connect those two pieces is through something that's called DNS, okay? And that is the domain name system, okay? So when you go purchase, say we're in that exact scenario, when you go purchase your hosting, let's say, for example, Hostinger, what Hostinger does is that they have something that's called DNS servers, okay? And you can kind of think of DNS servers as effectively working to some degree as a router via an IP address, okay? So what this does is that it essentially associates the domain that you purchased at Namecheap, okay? The domain that you purchased at Namecheap, it will essentially, what you do is that you write the name servers that Hostinger gives you, right? You write essentially say, hey, I want you to look at the name servers from Hostinger. And what will happen for this domain, and what will happen is that essentially your domain will get glued with the IP address, okay, of these name servers, which will be routed out to your to your hosting service, okay. So that's essentially how you end up being able to connect both of these pieces, right? So you have an IP address that now says, hey, anytime that this randomdomain.com gets put into a URL, into the URL input, and the user hits enter, it's going to activate this IP address effectively, right? It's going to look for this IP address, and it's going to say, oh, hey, look, this IP address is over here at Hostinger. It's a server for Hostinger, okay? And then when it points to that server on Hostinger, more specifically, it's going to look at the files of your website, if that makes any sense. So that's how you end up being able to connect these two components, how you're able to purchase a domain in one place, but then host your website in another. Because if you essentially, by utilizing DNS, you're able to route instead of the random domain being directed to the domain register, you're essentially saying, hey, look, I want to get these assets. It checks and it says, oh, look, we have our DNS servers, okay? We have our DNS servers that are set to this IP address, essentially, right? Or our DNS servers are pointing to this IP address, and that IP address is the hosting server for the website. Okay, so that is effectively it. And really the key here to remember is that wherever you purchase your domain, you have to change your DNS settings to point to your hosting provider's name service, right? And Hostinger gives those to you. So it says, hey, look, here are name servers. Wherever you purchase the domain, just add those name servers, essentially the name of those name servers onto that register. And anytime that somebody hits that domain or tries to query for it, I'll show you the files that we're hosting, essentially, if I were to break it down in plain English. Okay. Now, I think that the best thing that you could do to really solidify some of the information that we went over today is to go and do this yourself. Go purchase a domain in one place and then go try to host it on another in another provider and see how that goes. And have some assets that you want to load in. And it's going to really bake some of this information into your head. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention here is that when you go to Hostinger, a lot of times in and of themselves, I'm not an affiliate, this is not a paid promotion, but a lot of the times they have this setup they pretty much give you a step-by-step walkthrough of how to get this done. And they make it very easy, they make it very accessible to be able to learn this on their end. And all it really comes down to is you set up your service, and then you say, hey, I didn't purchase my domain with you guys. And then they're going to say, okay, well, here are our name servers, go and add add these to wherever you purchase the domain. And then anytime somebody anytime somebody looks for this domain, it's going to point to the files that you're hosting with us, right? So there are a lot of features that help you be able to do this in a lot speedier of a way and to some degree, not necessarily needing to understand this underlying dynamic. But I do think it's very, very important to give you guys an understanding of how it works, because sometimes you're going to run into problems that require you to get a basic understanding of DNS and a solid grasp on hosting, and not having a walkthrough like this, I think it can impede you from getting to the solution point faster, effectively. But yeah, guys, that was it. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Again, if you are learning to code and you are currently stuck, go to selftaughthustle.net, add your email here, and we'll send you some free videos for how to break out of tutorial hell, so that you can code not just for now, but for the rest of your career. Other than that, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.